Everyone, my name is Mary Ellen, and welcome back to my little slice of the internet where we talk about all things related to the storytelling industry. If you don't already know me, I write nonfiction under my real name, Mary Ellen Quigley, and romance under my pen name, M.E. Laverne. And can you believe it's the end of June already? So it is time to give a Q2 2025 update on becoming a full time author. Q2 is already wrapped, and so we are here today to talk about how things went with my goals on becoming a full time author. But before we do that, I want to thank all of you guys for sticking around and for checking in on me over the last month or so that I've been gone. I had no intention of taking that long of a break. I knew I was going to take a week, maybe two off because I was going to Florida on vacation for a week, but it ended up turning into a much longer break. There was a lot of reasons why that was the case. So thank you guys for checking in on me, but I am back and hopefully the next few months stay pretty quiet so that I can be consistent with you guys. So if this is your first time watching one of my videos, the way this works is that I give you guys a rundown of how my goals that I made went. So I go through each goal. I will give you guys some overviews on what I learned for the quarter. And then at the very end, we will talk about what my goals are for the next quarter. So wrapping up my Q2 goals, number one was to figure out what I want to write. Now, if you guys were here last time, you know I've been struggling over the last few months trying to figure out, do I even want to be a romance writer? And I really wish I could give you guys an answer, but I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that question. One thing I know for sure is that I really enjoy writing nonfiction. In fact, the book that I'm working on currently is a nonfiction book. I'm working on a book with my sister, which I'll talk about later here, but I know that nonfiction is something I enjoy writing. I also really love writing love stories. The problem I think I'm realizing with my romance writing career is that I don't know who my audience is. And until you know who you're writing for, you really don't know where to go with your books. I've talked about this multiple times in previous videos, and it still remains true for me today. I don't know where my books fit in the world of romance because I like to write things that are a little bit more edgy. And I like to write vampires and mafia and bad guys and people who just you shouldn't fall in love with, but you find that good thing in them and you do. I find that to be an interesting story, no matter how you swing it. And so I really love reading books like that and I like writing books like that. But I also don't like writing spicy books. And I found that that particular type of book, like mafia or motorcycle clubs or something like that, they're going to tend to be more on the spicy romance end because of the violence that's associated with them. And that's just how most people who read those particular tropes, they tend to like books that are a little spicier. Those who fall into more of the clean romance category typically, not always, but typically tend to be Christian romance or Hallmark vibes, that kind of a thing. And that's just not what I'm interested in. I have tried to write a couple of books that fell into the more Hallmark vibe type story, and I like writing those. They're fun. But what I really love is those bad boys. And so I'm really finding myself stuck in the romance world because I'm just not quite sure who I'm writing for, and even if the reader that I'm looking for exists. I'm not sure that that reader exists. And so I feel very lost in my romance writing career. And my sister had a really good idea. She asked the question of, have you considered young adult romance? And I was like, I have, but I haven't. When I first started my writing career, I thought about doing young adult. This was around the time of the Twilight movies, and so young adult romance was all the rage. There was a lot of people writing it, and it seemed like a good spot for me at the time because again, I didn't want to write spicy scenes. But as I got into writing my plots, I thought, well, maybe these are too mature. The characters I'm writing are too mature for young adults, so I need to do adult romance. And as we all know, my adult romance career has pretty much gone nowhere. So I'm not opposed to young adult, but I think I would need to study the genre because I've been out of it for over a decade. And I think you have to read what you write in order to understand what people want to read, to understand the trends of the market, to understand how things are changing as the years go by in that market. So if that is something I want to consider, it's not something I could just jump into. I would need to do some research first. But I don't really have an answer to that question. I don't know what I want to do with my romance writing career. I know that nonfiction is where I'm at right now, and so that's what I'm focusing on, but I just don't know. I just don't know. The second one I had was to finish writing my passion project, which I did do. The ebook came out last week, and then my paperback book came out today. This is my proof copy, so ignore the fact that there's a big gray, not for sale, resale on here, but This was the paperback version of the book. I really love how the cover turned out. I love how the colors pop. It really turned out being a nice book. I'm very proud of it. Even if it doesn't sell any copies, this was just, again, my passion project. It was something that was on my heart. I wanted to get it out, and I did. And I'm very proud of myself for finishing it in the time that I wanted to get it finished in. So if you want to check it out, there will be a link below where you can order the book. And thank you to everybody who beta read for me. I had a interesting experience. I had 5 beta readers. I had 4 that absolutely loved the book and 1 that hated it. And so it was I was like, wow, okay. So I had 4 that were just glowing. They had minor suggestions like pacing and change this. Maybe you should add more here. Maybe you should switch like where certain things are located, but liked the book. And then I had 1 that was like, I DNF'd because I hated it. And I was like, okay. But you know what? I still think that beta readers are what's needed. It's good to know that sometimes it just doesn't vibe with people. And it was nice to have feedback on pacing and just things I could change to make the book a little bit better. So thank you to anybody who did beta read for me. And hopefully someone reads it and likes it. My third goal was to finish Growing Up Haunted. That did not happen at all. At all. I mean, yeah, no, it did not happen at all. We have a cover, tentative cover. That's about as far as we've gotten with it. I have the first chapter written, and my sister has the short story that kicks off the book written. That's what we're focusing on now. So when I say that I'm working on that, my current project is nonfiction. That's the nonfiction project we're working on. I don't think that book's going to take us very long to write. It's just been life's been a little crazy lately for myself and for my sister, and so there hasn't been time to really sit and work on much. So I would say the last month or so, I was working on this. Whoops, I'm making noises. I was working on this. I was working on editing, formatting beta readers, feedback, all the stuff you do when you're releasing a new book, but I wasn't working on writing anything new. So, July, we're working on Growing Up Haunted. At least I am. Hopefully, my sister will as well. And we'll see how it goes. But that did not get finished in Q2. And number 4 was I wanted to redevelop my social media strategy. And I have redeveloped my social media strategy. Here's the thing, everyone's different. Your readers are different, right? You know who your readers are, you know where the spaces they like to be in, so you have to do what's best for you. For me personally, Facebook is dead. I will keep the Facebook page because it's easy to cross post between Instagram and Facebook and it doesn't hurt anything to have both. But I do not have any followers on Facebook. I use my Facebook author page for Facebook groups. That is it. Otherwise, it does nothing. The second thing I will tell you is that Instagram for me can be very hit or miss. Regular posts don't go very far, but my reels do. And of course, TikTok's still the queen of social media for me. I know that TikTok is still a question mark for everybody because it's being extended, then it's not, then it's extended, then it's not. Nobody knows. Look, right now we've got it. We've got it for a little while longer. I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is for as long as we have it. But for me personally, I find that the most success I have is through short form videos. TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts. That's it. That is where I get my most followers from. That is where I get the most engagement from. And that is where I've actually sold books from. So for me personally, the short form videos are the way to go. For you, that may not be the case. Maybe you have a large Instagram following and that's where you need to stick. But for me, it is most definitely the short form videos. So let's wrap up my feelings about Q2. I don't know how else to word this except to word it like it is. Writing for me is a passion. It's something I love. And I think that if you don't love writing, you have no business writing. Everyone should go into writing first and foremost because they love writing. They feel it's in their heart, it's a passion, it's something you enjoy doing, right? However, as we know from this whole series I'm doing, the goal of this whole thing for me, like the series that I'm doing, is to become a full time author. The truth of the matter is that in Q2 of 2025, I made $7.13. That's it. I can't make a living on $7.13. There's a couple reasons for this. The first one is that I did not have any new book releases in Q2. Basically, all of my books came out in the fall of 24, so there was nothing new coming out this year. So this was just books that are already out. And I also didn't do very much promoting other than my short form TikTok videos. So this was not very many sales and a whopping $7. That was it. So I'm not surprised by that. I also know that I'm having trouble figuring out who my reader is, as we just talked about a little bit ago. I don't really know who I'm writing for, if the person I'm writing for even exists. I'm not quite sure where I want to go with my books. Do I want to write Mafia and Bad Boys? Do I want to write Hallmark? It's all over the place. And I don't think anybody knows, anybody's like, what are you doing over there? Because I don't know where I go. And because I don't know where I go, I don't know how to market. So at the end of the day, I'm realizing that after making $7 in Q2, and for a total for the year, I've made like $13. Okay. I have got to figure out what the heck I'm doing, because until I know what I'm doing and who I'm writing for, you can't market it. And your books are not going to be very popular or very successful if they're all over the place, because you can't be writing to the vampire loving people here and then bust out your small town romance and then bust out a book about ghosts. Like, you can't be all over the place. You have to streamline somehow. And so that I thought I was streamlining by doing the two different pen names, but even within my pen name, M.E. Laverne is all over the place. And until I figure that out, I don't think I'm not going to be very successful. So one of my goals for 25 has to be, what am I writing? Who am I writing to, and how do I market it? Because until I figure that out, this is never going to turn into a career. And again, I love writing just because I love writing. I will write books even if I'm not making money off of them, because I just enjoy the storytelling. To me, it's an escape. It's relaxing. I enjoy it. But again, I want this to be a career. And it's not going to be a career if I'm not making any money. The other thing I'm realizing is that I had this grand idea that I wanted to diversify, because a lot of people don't really just make money off of their books. They also make money off of freelancing. And I was freelancing for a while. I've done editing and proofreading and beta reading off and on for over a decade now, and I love doing them. But the reason why I stopped doing them is because I don't have time. With my work schedule being the way it is, and with everything that's going on just in my life, I don't have time to really dedicate to doing a thorough job. I believe that editing, proofreading, beta reading, all that stuff is not quick, especially if I'm giving beta reading feedback. I really want to give good, genuine feedback. And that means I'm taking notes as I read. Same thing with editing. I'm taking notes as I go through. I'm having suggestions. I'm really taking my time and focusing. That's not something that I can knock out in an hour or two, depending on the size. I mean, if it's a short story, maybe. But like, if it's a longer, full size novel, I need several days and several hours to knock that out. And with me working sometimes, 10 to 12 hours in a day, because that's just the way my job goes. Like last week, I worked until 7 or 8 o'clock every single day of the week, except for Friday. So I don't have time to spend on doing a good job. And to me, if I can't be thorough, I don't want to offer that as a service, because it's a waste of your time and it's a waste of mine. So I don't have time for freelancing. So I don't know what else I could do to diversify. But it's the same thing, like, well, just make like bookish crafts or something and make like an Etsy shop. And I'm like, yeah, but you have to have time to make those things and then to go to the post office and to ship those things. Like, I don't have time for all of that stuff. So I'm not quite sure how to diversify outside of just my writing career also, because I don't have time to take on extra freelancing. If I had to work full time, find time for writing, and then find time for whatever else, where am I finding time for that? And I just feel burnout. I took a break for like this month because I went on vacation, but also I was feeling burnout. I feel like a hamster in a wheel I've said this before. I'm a hamster in a wheel who's just running for my life and I'm not going anywhere. I ended up having both my aunt and my cousin have strokes like a week ago, and that really kind of made me face more mortality, which was it's really sad to say. But my dad passed away 2 years ago. My aunt is his older sister, and I still have one other aunt, but we're down to like a couple people left in my dad's family as far as like his sibling group goes, that are left, and then they're all gone. And then my cousin having stroke, he was only in his 50s, and I'm in my 40s. My aunt is like 80. And so I'm realizing that like there's not a whole life is short. There's not as much time on this planet as you think you have. And I was feeling burnt out. And I really was like, you know what? I just want to have time to like sit down, go out and enjoy my nature, go out and swim in my little pool I bought for myself, spend time with my family and my friends, spend time with my dog because I also, in the midst of feeling my mortality, I was like, my dog is 3, he's going to be 4 in February, and dogs only live to be what, like 10 to 15 years depending on the breed. And I was like, I'm spending so much time behind the screen of a computer that I really have a love-hate relationship with social media right now. I have a love-hate relationship with computers right now. I'm feeling my 40s. I'm feeling my mortality. And I think that having two people in my life have strokes on literally the same day really opened my eyes to the fact that I need to balance my priorities. But that's also why I'm chasing the author dream, because I also don't want to slave to the corporate ladder for the rest of my life either. I'm just feeling torn and emotional right now. And I don't really know where to go with that, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. What do I want my life to actually look like? And I don't think that what I'm doing is going to be sustainable long term. I need to figure things out because I'm finding it really hard to balance everything. I always go into a new job thinking that I'm going to have good work life balance, but the problem is that I'm an overachiever and I'm a perfectionist. And so I'm the person who doesn't say no to people. Can you help with this? Absolutely, I can help. And then 10 projects later, I didn't even have a lunch break that day. I need to learn how to tell people, no, I don't have time to help with that. But then I'm always afraid they'll be like, well, she's not a team player. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's just a me problem, but it's been an emotional Q2. Let's wrap this up, otherwise it's going to be the longest video ever. Q3, what are my goals? Well, number one is to finish Growing Up Haunted. That is the first one. We have an event in October for the podcast, and I told my sister, we have the same book that we have been promoting since 2023, which is fine. You can always promote your book, but we have the same book we've been promoting since 2023. We don't do podcast merch because we just don't. You know, it's one of those things that we don't spend the time and money to do because we're not sure anybody would really buy it. So we're like, we don't have podcast merch. I told her I don't really want to go to this event and sit up as a vendor if we're just pushing the same book that we have been pushing for the last couple of years. If we don't have something new to offer people, then we don't need to go. Because the reality is, when you're doing paranormal events in Indiana, it's pretty much the same people. You might get a few new people depending on the geography, but for the most part, you get the same people all the time that go to these events. So if that's the case, and we're showing up with the same book we've been selling to these people for 2 years, I'm not going. I'm not going because it's a waste of time. So my goal is to have Growing Up Haunted done so that when we go in October, we have a new book and we're like, hey, remember this book? We wrote a new book. And also check out our podcast. You know what I mean? Because if we can't do that, it's a waste of time and money. And she'll be mad at me, but like I'm literally not going if we don't have something new to offer. Goal number 2, explore the idea of writing a young adult book instead. But the problem is, I need to do research. I am a firm believer in that you read what you write. And that is, I talked about this briefly beforehand, but you cannot write to a market you don't know. You need to read who's popular in that market. Who are the new people that are catching everybody's attention? Who are the up and comers that are on TikTok pushing that got books coming out and everybody's salivating over their books? They're not even out yet. Like, you have to learn that market. I can't just sit down and be like, I'm going to write teenage vampires and it's going to be a bestseller if I don't know what people are reading in that genre. Because the reality of it is that young adult is not just young adult. You're not just writing to high schoolers. That genre is read by a ton of people. I know 40-year-old women who read young adult novels, and I know women in their 20s and 30s who read young adult. It's such a wide ranging genre, but it's completely different than it was 10 years ago when I was looking into writing this genre initially. So I need to do research. I need to do some reading. I don't even know that I want to write this genre. I just want to explore it as an option to see whether or not it is something that I could consider as a viable option to write my romance stories, but maybe just package them a little differently. But again, research, because I can't just step into this genre if I don't understand it. And the third one is, there something I can offer for freelancing that is less time consuming than editing and beta reading to help diversify how I'm getting money and where my income is coming from? I was thinking about things like, I don't even know what it would be, but something simple I could offer. I don't know what that would be. I need to figure out what it would be. One of my ideas was that I have self published so long that I'm pretty good at formatting the book. So maybe, like, for a small fee, I could format your book for print on Amazon or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. But editing, beta reading, proofreading, all that stuff takes time. And I need to find something I can offer freelancing wise that's not time consuming, but that is consistent. And I don't know what that is, but I'm going to see if I can figure it out. So those are my goals for Q3 of 2025. And again, I'm not $7.13. I'm not making much much progress towards making this a full-time career, but it's because I need to wrap my head around what I'm actually writing first. So wish me luck. Q3 is going to be a quarter of figuring out my crap and then hopefully coming into Q4 with a game plan of how I'm going to approach the rest of my career, because I'm already like almost a year into this journey and we're not doing too great so far. So, how did your Q2 go? What are some wins that you had? What are some goals you accomplished? And what are you focusing on for Q3? Tell me about it in the comments below. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, all the things. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.